So this is CYClone FM. I'm joined by Mick Foley, the hardcore legend, author, comedian, and wrestler. So Mick, what's it like to be back in Scotland?
I mean, right here in Scotland, it's been great. I've loved the Fringe. This is my last night of 4 shows, and I'm already looking forward to next year. You guys know one of my highlights of my career took place in Glasgow.
Oh really?
Wow. Did you guys
what was that?
Well, it worked out that when I was making doing my first tour, comedy tour of the UK, I was trying to give myself a night off to see Tori Amos, who's my favorite artist, and then the shows were selling really well, and we had nothing to offer Scotland. So I said, okay, we took the Glasgow booking, and I realized that was the night that I was going to go see Tori Amos in Glasgow. So I map quested her venue and mine, and it came out at 22 seconds. 22 seconds away. Her show started an hour later than mine. So we took the meet and greet that was supposed to be after my show. I begged them to move it up to the front of the show. And basically, Billy Kirkwood and I ran as fast as my legs would carry me up to Tori's show, and so it turned out to be one of those really great, cool nights that I could never duplicate it, because if there's one instance where you're 22 seconds away from your favorite artist and you see her, and you're like, what a coincidence. Yeah. That's great. If it ever happens again, then it's just kind of creepy. You know what I mean? Then it's like I'm officially following her. So yeah, that was a really cool moment for me.
Ah, next one. So Mick, what made you make the transition from wrestler to author to comedian?
Yeah. Well, you know what? They weren't like giant transitions, because they're all forms of storytelling. Some people look at wrestling as being, it can be whatever people want it to be, but for me it was a way of telling stories in the ring, good and bad, evil and strength, weakness, all these things, gray areas in between, and so it was not a big jump for me to do the wrestling to the autobiographies. Even then, for me, turning that into fiction, creating characters and putting them in precarious situations was not that much different than wrestling, even though people were like, whoa, wrestling novelist, that's crazy. And it's taken a while for people to realize that me telling stories on stage is not that much different than having a microphone in my hand in the ring. And it's actually like the biggest creative rush I've had in many years as a live performer.
And how does it compare standing in front of the WWE universe, and obviously in a large crowd, in comparison to standing in a smaller, more intimate venue?
I like that word, intimate. That's what I tell people. It's not a small crowd; it's an intimate experience. Last night, I realized how lucky I am that it was packed out in the music hall at the assembly rooms. And having had a chance to walk around and take in some of the Fringe shows, I've seen some really great, talented artists in front of some really small crowds. So that reminds me so much of when I started wrestling, and every match was my most important match. Also reminds me just of doing gigs a couple of weeks ago, where I show up and they don't even have my name on the marquee. It's the wing special, and not only that, it's the previous night's wing special. And so, it's a grounding, humbling experience in a lot of ways. But when a crowd's really into it, it really doesn't matter if it's 10,000 people or if it's 100 people. It's really about, seeing people's faces and realizing that you're, doing something that, either makes them laugh, think, wince, cry, whatever it might be, but you're kind of taking them on an emotional ride.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how does the Scottish crowd compare to any other crowd that you performed in front of?
Well, up until last night, I would say awesome. It was awesome. But last night, because it was so packed, you had a lot of people who had not been to a comedy event who were treating it like it was a wrestling event.
So we can't have you here without talking too much about your WWE career. And what was your career highlight? What was it like winning the WWE Championship for the first time during the Monday Night Wars? How did it feel for you when you were told you were going to get the strap?
The truth is, because I was a guy who never thought that would happen. I had not placed a lot of importance on it. Yeah. I'd never been like, hey, my career will only be fulfilled if I get that the strap. Don't ever call it a strap if you're in WWE, okay? It's a championship.
Okay.
It's not even a belt. And that's exactly the way I thought about it until I actually had it. Then it was like, this is great. And, so all the stuff you saw me do, as far as running around the ring with the belt, as far as, addressing my kids, my wife. Hello, this is Mick Foley of the WWE, the hardcore legend, and you are listening to CYClone FM. Yeah! Can I mention how awesome the people at the assembly rooms have been? Especially Kate Park has been amazing. Everyone's really worked so hard, I've been embraced by like this comedy community. Like, I don't feel Billy Kirkwood's over there. Maybe he'll differ, but it's they don't feel like I'm like intruding. Like, hey, let me make a few dollars off my name, because you can kind of tell when somebody. I don't mean to downplay Screech's importance in American iconography. And I know the kid, Dustin Diamond, but there's an example of someone I've been told might be different. If I saw him, he might kill it and leave it all on the stage. But it's like doing comedy is a way to get to the merch table. Yeah. And here I am with a merch table. I think when people go and they see me perform, they can tell that I love it. Even if last night you might be able to tell I was frustrated a little bit by the.
But your response, obviously, by asking people to calm down a little bit, obviously shows your kind of admiration for everyone coming from all.
Yeah, and that's what worked. Is the idea that addressing the people do work hard. And they make a decision to come here, and they want it to be a good experience. And for a handful of people to think that experience is about them is a little selfish, But you're going to run into that a small percentage of the time.
And next one I would just like to say is, earlier this year you were on Soccer AM, and you had a team for life picked out, which was Dagenham and Redbridge. So I want to ask, what do you think the chances of promotion are this season?
You know what? I was just assigned that team. Like, I would say, when people asked me, I'd say Wigan, and nobody knew why Wigan. And do you know why Wigan, Billy?
Why's that?
When people would say, what football club do I follow, and I would say Wigan.
Yeah.
And the only reason being, Wigan's got such a long tradition of producing great wrestlers. Like, if a guy came from Wigan, you knew not to mess with him. If he'd been trained in Billy Riley's Snake Pit, it was like, all right, don't mess with a Wigan guy. And I also, I know it's a tough, it's a tough working town and a coal mining town, and so I think the people there could use the success of their football club way more so than the U.S. I mean, we take our sport seriously, but I've read articles where people actually go into depression, like when their club gets downgraded. It's like, so. Come on, let's pull for the Wigan people. Okay. They produce some great wrestlers. And that's why I root for their success. I couldn't even tell you the other name. Okay. The only other thing I remember is that I wanted to impress Robbie Fowler with the thunder in my foot, because I did play football for a couple of years in middle school, and I wasn't particularly good, but I could kick the ball a long way, and I thought I could just channel that 7th and 8th grade power I had, and it didn't work out that way. It just kind of squibbed off to the side, and I embarrassed myself in front of millions. But other than that, it was a great experience.
So we've covered football, we've covered comedy, we've covered wrestling, we've covered about everything. Thank you, Mick.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time.